Okay, so what if I told you that the sentence, the dog bites the man, could be scrambled up and it would still mean the exact same thing? Sounds kind of wild, right? Well, today we are jumping headfirst into a language where that's totally normal. We're going to crack the code of Latin and find the one powerful secret that makes the whole thing work.
So let's start with this big puzzle. It really all comes down to how sentences are put together. See, in English, we're completely dependent on a very strict word order to figure out what's going on.
Take this sentence, for example. The slave greets the mistress. It's simple, right? You've got your subject, your verb, your object. We know who's doing what because of that order. If you mix those words up, the whole meaning just falls apart. But in the world of the ancient Romans, things are completely different.
Now, here's that exact same sentence in Latin. Servus dominam salutat. And yep, it means precisely what you think. The slave greets the mistress. So far, no big surprises.
Okay, but now, check this out. We've totally shuffled the words around. Dominam servus salutat. And yet, to a Roman, this sentence still means the slave greets the mistress. Nothing has changed. The meaning is totally locked in.
And that leads us to our big question for today. How is that even possible? If the word order can be all over the place, how does anyone know who's doing the greeting and who's being greeted? Well, that's the puzzle we're about to solve together.
All right, next up, how to sound Roman. Because to solve this puzzle, first we have to know how to pronounce the clues. I mean, think about it. It's like trying to decipher a secret message. You can't get very far if you don't even know what the letters sound like. And here's some really good news. Latin pronunciation is incredibly straightforward, especially compared to the beautiful chaos of English. In Latin, the letter A is always going to be A. I is always E, and U is always U. Nice and consistent. That's our first clue. So what about emphasis? Where do you put the stress in a word? Well, it's not a guessing game. Latin has this really neat little rule that's based on whether the second to last syllable is long. So a word like domina, you don't say domina, you say domina. Getting that rhythm down is a huge step towards sounding like a real Roman. Okay, now that we know how to pronounce the words, it's time for the big reveal. We are finally ready to solve our word order mystery. Because the secret, the absolute key to understanding how Latin works, has nothing to do with word order. It's been hiding in plain sight this whole time, at the very end of the words. This amazing concept is called inflection, and believe it or not, we actually have a little bit of it left in English. Think about it. We say, he greets the dog, but the dog greets him. That little switch from he to him tells us the word's job in the sentence. Well, Latin just takes that idea and applies it to pretty much every noun. For today, we're just going to focus on two of these jobs, or what we call cases. First, there's the nominative. That's your subject, the hero of the sentence, the one doing the action. Then you've got the accusative. That's the direct object, the one receiving the action, the one being done to. The ending is what tells you who's who. All right, I know what you might be thinking right now. Whoa, that sounds like a ton of different endings to memorize. But here's the really cool part. They're not random at all. They follow very predictable patterns. It's almost like they belong to different families. And these families of words have an official name. They're called groups or declensions. See, every single noun in Latin belongs to one of these groups, and each group has its own set of special endings. So if you know what group a word is in, you know what endings to look for. Learning these patterns is everything. And this chart right here, this is basically our Rosetta Stone for today. This is our secret decoder ring. Let's look at it. For group 1 nouns, the subject, the doer, is going to end in a. The object ends in Then for group 2, the subject ends in us, and the object ends in This little chart is the code book we're going to use. All right, we have our code book. We know the secret method. It is time to put this all to the test and read some actual Latin. Let's do this. So here's our first sentence, Metella filium salutat. We already know that salutat means greets. The big question is who is greeting whom? The answer is hiding in those endings. Okay, it's your turn to be the detective. Who is the subject here? Who's the doer of the action? Go ahead and look at our chart. Find the word that has that special nominative or subject ending.
Did you spot it? It's Metella. That A on the end is a dead giveaway. It's the signature ending for a Group 1 noun that's the subject. It's basically shouting, hey, I'm the one doing the action. So we know for a fact Metella is doing the greeting.
Fantastic. Okay, part 2 of the puzzle. Who is she greeting? Who is on the receiving end of this greeting? Look for that accusative ending on our chart, the one that signals the object. And there it is, Philium. That at the end is the unmistakable sign of a Group 2 noun acting as the object. So we know with 100% certainty, Metella greets her son. It doesn't matter where the words are in the sentence. The endings tell us the whole story.
So let's move on to our final section, your first translation. Think about it. You just read a real Latin sentence, and you didn't guess. You decoded it. Now it's time to take the next step. Let's try to build our own sentence from scratch. So here is your challenge. You need to say, the maid praises the cook. So take a second and think about it. Who is the subject, the doer? And who is the object, the done to? What kind of endings are those words going to need? Here are the raw ingredients you'll need. For maid, you've got ancilla, which is a Group 1 noun. For cook, you have coquus, a Group 2 noun. And the verb praises is laudat. Now remember, the trick is to change those endings to give each word its proper job in the sentence. And really, this all boils down to one single huge idea. English is a language of word order. Our meaning depends on it. But Latin? Latin is a language of word endings. Once you really let that sink in, you've found the master key. It unlocks the door to the literature, the history, and the entire way of thinking of the Roman world. Because in Latin, the ending is everything.